I'm so excited about today's guest. If I could be more chill about today's guest, I would be. He's working on a new project called the Untitled, Unauthorized Hunter S. Thompson Musical, and he just released his album. I'm so excited to talk to Joe Iconis. Hello, Joe Iconis.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm so well.
Yeah. So, I mean, to start off, I want to know about your journey getting into the world of musical theater and how you discovered your passion for writing and composing.
Yeah, I sort of fell in love with theater at an early age. I came from Long Island, the town called Garden City, and so I grew up really close to New York. My family wasn't like a family that was in the arts or entertainment at all. Uh, but they like my family would like go to see, a show a year. It was like one of those kind of things. And so when I was a kid, the Little Shop of Horrors movie had come out, and I don't know why, but I was shown that movie, even though I would have been like 5 years old at the time, and I really loved it. And so the original production of Little Shop was playing when that movie came out, and I saw a commercial for it one day, and I was like, oh, I want to see. It's that movie I love, like live on stage. And so for my sixth birthday, my father took me to see Little Shop of Horrors at the Orpheum Theater. It was like the last like 6 weeks of their run, and seeing Little Shop at the Orpheum was really the thing that that gave me a love of musical theater in general. And I just like completely, I completely fell in love. I loved like Little Shop itself, but it was really like the the experience of like being in a room with other people and they were telling a story and there was music and puppets. Like the whole thing really just like blew my mind. And I became like an immediate theater fan.
Yeah, it's so funny you say Little Shop of Horrors because the other day I was talking to my mom. We actually just saw the off-Broadway production with Matt Doyle, and
Oh,
that
word.
and afterwards she was like, I was like 5 years old when that movie came out, 5 or 6 years old, and I was like, why am I watching this? But I watched it over and over, and I was so
Yeah.
scared. So it's kind of funny how you both had that same experience.
Yeah. And what was crazy is that I was a kid who was like, I was like very scared of things, and I would be like really, I was scared of like, movies, and I would, I cried a lot, but for some reason, seeing anything in a musical, like a piece of theater, I was kind of okay with it. And so like Little Shop, is Little Shop and there's like girders and man eating plants and stuff in that. But like when I was a kid, I saw a lot of shows that were like, I guess, quote unquote, inappropriate. But it's that kind of stuff didn't scare me if it was in a theater, like Sweeney Todd and I guess Into the Woods, even for like a 6 year old is a lot, but I was totally into it.
Yeah, totally. So your upcoming project, the entitled Unauthorized Hunter S. Thompson Musical, is going to the La Jolla Playhouse, which I'm assuming.
Yeah. I'm there right now. Yeah, it's like very sunny. I'm in California on a lunch break, right
Yeah.
outside of the rehearsal studio. Yeah.
Explain the process of writing the score for this new musical.
Yeah. So like this is a show that I've been working on for so many years. I had the idea to write the show in 2007, which is like, yeah, it is a preposterous amount of time. And and I was commissioned by this theater to write it in 2008. And so like my life has changed so much from when I first had the idea to write this thing. The world has changed so much from when I first had the idea to write this thing, and it's been like a really wild process because I haven't been like working on the show from 2008 till today. And really, the first draft wasn't written until like 2015, but it's still a really long time, And so it's been unlike any other show I've ever worked on, where I'm writing music and lyrics, and I'm also writing book, and things have really slowly developed over time. Some songs have remained kind of as is throughout, 5, 10 years, and some songs have like really shifted. And I'm writing new stuff every day, and so it's like a really wide um, time span of myself that is represented in this crazy ass musical.
Yeah, and I mean, You must have changed so much. You've gotten a Tony nomination in that time. In that time, it's been
Hmm.
4 years. I mean, that's just incredible. You've been working on it for that long.
It's insane. Yeah, but the show is really big. It's like there's lots of ideas and it covers a lot of ground. And so I think it kind of feels appropriate that it's this thing that's like, that I've been working on essentially in my whole professional life. Like I never had a run of a show in 2007 when I first had this idea. And so literally everything that's ever happened to me in my career has happened while this show has been like, birth. It's so insane. It's really wild. Like my wife, um, Lauren Marcus, she's an amazing actor who happens to be in this show. Like we dated and broke up and got back together and got married. And in the time span of this show, it's really something.
That's crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
Hunter S. Thompson is a famous journalist. I want to
Yep.
know what research went into him in creating the show.
A bunch of research. Like I was really inspired to write this show, not from a place of being obsessed with Hunter S. Thompson's writing, even though I was always aware of Hunter S. Thompson's writing and I liked it quite a bit. But I really got inspired when I started reading stories of people who knew him personally. A lot of this was after he died. He died in 2005. And these sort of personal firsthand accounts of this man got me really fascinated because I was like, what I know of him is kind of this like sort of cartoon character. He wrote Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and that's sort of like a fictionalized version of a trip that he took in real life, and Johnny Depp played him, and he was this larger than life character. But I think most people know him as just that. They know him as a character, as like a Halloween costume kind of come to life. So hearing about him in real life, it was kind of like, oh, this guy, as wild as he was, he was just a human being. He was just like a regular man who was complex and who was strange and who lived life in a way that was like insane, but he's still like, he was still just a person. And so I got really excited about, trying to find out information about him in real life, in addition to the him that we know through his writing. And so the research, a lot of it was like, of course, reading books that he had written, but even more than that, it was trying to find sort of firsthand accounts of people's experiences with him and how he like moved about the world.
Yeah, so like in the show, how do you find a parallel between him and his writing? Like, what is that like separating the two, but also having it be the same thing at the same time?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's really it's hard because the thing that Hunter S. Thompson is kind of known for is creating this style of writing called gonzo journalism, which is like the writer putting themselves in the center of the story. And so, you know, reporting reporting like, news through a totally subjective lens. And so much of what he wrote, it was fiction sort of posing as fact, posing as truth. So the lines between reality and non-reality were always blurred in his writing and his life. And so it's actually been really hard to kind of untangle, okay, where does the writer start and the man, stop? Like where is that line? And so a lot of the show itself is about kind of trying to figure that out, like how much of this is the truth, how much of this is a fabrication, and what are the relationships between like the guy himself and the stuff that he's putting out in the world. And so I think because of that, it's sort of become a larger thing where it's like it's less about specifically Hunter S. Thompson, even though it does work as like kind of a musical of him. And it's more about like people's own relationship to art and to the truth and to all that stuff.
Yeah, totally. So you just released album, which
Yeah.
when I was researching it, I was like, this is so incredible. I mean, how did you approach creating such a diverse and extensive album? And what was the most rewarding part of working with like crazy Broadway actors and these talented individuals?
It was the thing that I'd wanted to do for a long time because I've performed for years and years with my group Iconis and family, and I have all of these songs that are just standalone songs that aren't from a show. that exist like totally unto themselves, and a lot of them are songs that people know of mine even more than they know songs from shows like Party Hat or Kevin or Broadway Here I Come was a song that was a standalone song before Without Smash. And so I have a ton of these songs, and I always wanted to do a big album where I recorded all of them and just sort of never had the time. And then the pandemic hit, and I was like, what could I do during the pandemic that would be a piece of art that I could make that would not be like as a result of the pandemic. It would be like what is something that I could make in like quote unquote normal times now. And it felt like, oh, I bet an album is something that I could do. And so that's where I sort of first started hatching it. So the most amazing thing about the creation of album was that when we were recording, it was during the height of the pandemic, or maybe not the height, but it was like right before vaccines were a thing.
Oh,
And so as people were coming into the studio to record, and every single human being on the album are people that I have a personal relationship with. A lot of the people are folks who I've, work with all the time. And some of the people are folks who, I've done like readings with in the past, and like, Aaron Tveit, or people that I've known for years, like Lin Manuel. And so it was really important to me that everyone on the album was someone that I had like a real connection with, that it wasn't just like a random, like, oh, I'm going to ask, this like person who's famous this week and have them be on my album so people listen to it. It was like, I wanted to really feel like a family album, like looking through like snapshots. Um, and so as people were coming in to record in the studio, a lot of times this was like the first time I was actually seeing someone since like the pandemic had started. And so many of them were like my best friends, and it was just the most emotional thing where people were coming in to record their songs and just like hysterically crying and like hugging everyone. And it's like, and I love that, like that we have that, and that even though it's not about this, the album itself is kind of this like wild snapshot of a very particular moment in time.
yeah, totally. And I mean, what's really exciting is that you guys just put it on vinyl.
Yeah.
Collector. I was like, I can get myself one of these because I mean it's 44 songs. It's around 3 hours, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, tell me about the vinyl release and all the fun aspects of doing that.
Yeah, and when I first sort of conceived the project, it was absolutely a part of that conception that there would be an eventual vinyl release of the thing. I love how people receive media these days through streaming. I think that there's something really incredible about the fact that we're all, connected in such a uh, organic way now. Music is immediate, and and people can like discover things easily now. It really sort of like democratizes music and art. But streaming, I mean, but I also really love music that you can hold and smell, and music that like physically takes up space. And so it just made sense that it would be like, okay, we're going to stream this thing, obviously, but then also let's do a proper vinyl release that's like big and fat and has lots of gorgeous imagery and has a lyric book and really feels like a hefty, something. I really wanted it to feel heavy. I wanted it to be like, I wanted people to be able to pick it up and be like, wow, there's a lot of music in my hands, just because we are so used to like receiving art in this sort of ephemeral way where it's like music is just kind of in the air, and like it is, but music also can be something that exists in a room. And I really love that. So the artwork was done by this dude Rob Carmichael. He's a really amazing graphic designer and works mostly in like pop and rock and like indie albums. And the photos are by this dude Marcus Walls, who's also a drummer who plays drums on the album, and who plays with me all the time. And he's such a talented dude, and we really wanted to like make something that felt very vibrant, very alive, and has a lot of imagery that's like sort of suburban. There's a lot of suburban stuff on the album, and it just so happened that like the place where we shot the photos was the town that I grew up in. And so if you look, it's like the streets and everything are like literally the streets where I was kind of raised as a kid. So I love that people, whether we know when they're looking at the art, whether they know it or not, they're kind of seeing like literal snapshots of my young life that I frequently reference in my songs. in the art of the album.
Yeah, it's so funny when I was looking at the vinyl online, I was like, this is like this is like the Christmas of vinyls. Like it's when I got my Hamilton vinyls, it was like thick and it's all this stuff. I'm like, when I get this, it's gonna be the same feeling, and it's just I can listen to a song and it's not gonna be repeats because there's so much material.
Yeah.
Magical, I feel.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for saying that. I think so too. I love like I love stuff. I love merch. I love, things that are sort of like official branded items from pieces of art that I love. And so I made the sort of vinyl collection that I would want as someone who loves this sort of stuff. And the other cool thing that we did that I'm so excited by is we did a different track order for the vinyl itself. I always kind of knew that we were probably going to have to do that because um, vinyl is so specific, where there's only, I think it's 28 minutes on each, or it's between 24 and 26 minutes on each side. And so my songs are so long that it's really hard to like split them up on the vinyls. And so the album is three and a half hours, and we have one additional song on the vinyl. And so we knew that it could like just fit on 10 sides. And so I thought, oh, it would be so cool if I did a specific order, knowing that it's like you're gonna get like, 3 to 5 songs on a side before you have to flip it. And so the vinyl order is different than the streaming order. It has the same song number 1 and song number 44. But other than that, it's all different. Which I think is pretty and is like a real unique listening experience.
Sure. So, I mean, if I'm going to go back to like 2019, 2018,
Yeah.
maybe 11 or 12, it's so funny. I would belt Michael in the bathroom in my room and
Yeah.
what the lyrics meant at all until one day my sister busted and she was like, Joel, what are you singing about? I'm like, Michael in the bathroom. And she's like, not. I kept on anyway through the pandemic. And if I go back to my old TikTok page, I have cringy TikToks of me lip singing to all the songs. But I'm a huge Be More Chill fan. And I
Yay.
go by without asking you about it. So, I mean, tell me about your creation of Be More Chill, the musical.
Yeah, I mean, it was a book by the late great Nancy that was given to me by my agent at the time in like 2000 and like 11 or 12, and he read it and he was saying, "Oh, this book reminded me of you. I think it's really cool." Um, and and he was like, I don't necessarily know if it's like musical or whatever, but it just reminded me of you. So just read it, and if you like it, great, and if you don't, who cares? And so I read it and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And this should totally be a musical. And it was like one of those immediate things where I just immediately knew what I wanted to do with it. As I was reading it, I was like, oh, I totally see how this turns into a musical. And so the creation of it, like the initial, first drafts and everything sort of leading up to our first production at Two River Theater was like the easiest time I've ever had working on a musical. Some shows they take a long time, like the one I'm working on now. Some shows don't take as long, but are just really hard for one reason or another. Maybe it's like the material is really difficult to figure out, or the people you're working with don't, quite mesh. So it's like a traumatic, working experience. Be More Chill was just like easy. Joe Trace, who wrote the book, is such an amazing writer. He was a writer I was a fan of before I worked with him. We worked so well together. The theater was like so dope, and they were so supportive of us, and they loved the show so much. And so it was just a really like lovely experience. And it was so disappointing when we opened and it was not received in the way that we wanted it to be received, because it really felt like, oh my goodness, like we're not going to get a chance to do this again. It's going to like finish its run here in Jersey at Two River Theater and not go on. And so the fact that we made the cast album, and like 2 years later after we released it, it caught on in such a crazy way, and so many people fell in love with it, and that was the thing that propelled us to New York City. It remains like the craziest thing that's ever happened to me, and I am just so grateful for all of the human beings who fell in love with the show and like just told other people about it. And like the crazy thing is, like, when that was all going on, I'd have these conversations with sort of older people who would be like, "Oh, this show got to Broadway because of social media, and it's like so like high tech, and I would always be like, sort of, but it's actually like the most old school thing of all time because it was just like word of mouth. It was just people who liked the show. It was like there wasn't like a corporation behind it. It literally was just human beings who liked the show. The delivery mechanism was social media because that's how we speak to each other right now. But like it was just people digging the show and telling other people about it. And so I'm so proud that it was like actual people who got us to where we got.
Yeah, and I feel like so many shows nowadays build their fandom based on media, but I feel like Be More Chill was one of the first to do so. And I mean, after Broadway, it grew so much. It's in the West End, and I think I read it's going to Tokyo. Like
Yeah,
everybody in my generation at least loves this show. And so it's great. The last
thanks. Yeah. Yeah. I really, it makes me happy. And yeah, it's like, it's so funny to talk about because it really wasn't that long ago. It was like whatever, like 4 or 5 years. Like at the time, the thought of people on social media being excited by a show and not being a real thing was like so foreign to everyone I spoke to. Like I would have these meetings with these producers and they were like so condescending, and they would just be like, "Oh, cool, someone on the Twitter said something nice about your show, and you think that's great. How cute!" And I would just be like, "No, I swear, this is a real thing." And now it's so hilarious to see like social media, being used in the way that it obviously should, because it's 2023, but it was just so foreign to people just a few years ago.
What advice would you give to an aspiring performer or composer?
What advice would I give? I'm so bad with answering this. But I guess a few things. I guess the biggest thing is like see as much as you possibly can. It sounds like a no-brainer, but I just think that taste is something that is often not talked about. And it's like as artists, whether you're a writer or performer, I think it's good to like know what your taste is and know things that you genuinely respond to and things that are genuinely not for you. And I think the only way you can develop that is just by exposing yourself to as much as humanly possible. And it's like even if you're someone who's like, I don't like musicals today and I want to change the game and whatever. I think that's totally valid, but it's like you can't change the game unless you know what the game is. And and I think that it's a really, really, really important thing. And the other thing I would say is that, when I was young, when I was in school, people would always come into like a class, or I would take a master class or listen to an interview, and they would always say about theater, if you can do anything else, do that. If you're able to do anything else, do that. And I always hated that. And now that I'm like an adult who's been working in theater, and it's been hard, but I've been working. I can say that's absolutely not the reason to do theater. It's like you should do theater because you want to and because you love it and because you choose to. And it's like I'm someone who I think I could probably do a few things. Like I'm relatively smart. There are a few things I could do. So many people in theater who I know have 10 million jobs either in the arts or outside the arts. And it's like people are doing it because they want to do it. And I think that's such an important thing. I think it's a great life and a noble life. And it's like choose to do it because you love it. I literally, before I spoke to you, I just watched, there's this clip of Lilius White talking to some group. I don't even know what it was. And she was saying, to this group, like, do it because you love it. And she was saying, like, I'm going to be 72 in a couple days, and I'm doing 8 shows a week, and it's really hard, and I'm exhausted, and I like absolutely love it. And if you don't love it, then you should do something else. And that to me is like, I think that's better advice than the if you can do anything else, do something else. It's like if you don't love it, then do something else. But if you love it, like choose to.
Yeah, and I feel
So
like
that's my
I feel like that's a rule of thumb for like everything in life, not just theater. Like if
yeah.
you love it, do
It's
it.
like
If you
I know so many people who it took a long time for them to find their groove, and it took a long time for them to like find their place in the world, and people who are still sort of waiting for their break or whatever. And it's like that's the other thing where it's like we I think we're so conditioned to sort of want immediate success and immediate gratification. And it does happen for some people because they're very talented and also they're lucky, and like, and it's different for everyone. And I really believe that everyone, if you stick with it, I think perseverance is like the biggest thing. If you stick with it, like your time will come and you'll figure it out. And everyone's timeline is different. There's a million reasons why, certain people get certain things and other ones don't. And I think it's just like sort of having faith, which is really hard sometimes, but having faith that it will work out and persevering through it all is like it's just the most important thing because there's no one way to do it. And I have just seen so many people like, hit it big when they least expect it and you just never know. You never know what's gonna happen. And like the Be More Children, me, it's so crazy because it was my own show. It gives me faith because I never in a million years ever thought that show got to New York is how any show could ever get to New York, let alone a show of mine. It came out of nowhere, and I did nothing to to make it happen. And so it's like you never know, and that's like the scary thing, but also the magic thing about the arts.
Exactly. So now it's time for some games. We have two games. You can play the first one, the second one, or both. The first one,
Uh-oh.
put a finger down. So I'll give you 10 prompts. You have to put a finger down. And the second one is guess the musical. So I'll give you a show lyric and
Okay.
you have to guess, and you have three guesses. And there's a clue if you don't get it the first time. So like I said,
Okay.
the first, second, or both.
Um, let's do both, but I don't know if I understand the first.
So for the first one, you're gonna put up 10 fingers.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you a prompt, and if you've done it or it applies to you, you're gonna put a finger down.
Okay.
Yep. Put a finger down if you've rejected plans because of rehearsal. Put a finger down if you've cried at closing night. Put a finger down if you've been noticed on the street. Put a finger down if your show has had to be stopped mid-show. Put a finger down if a famous person has came to your show. Put a finger down if you're Tony nominated. Put a finger down if you've fallen on stage. Put a finger down if your voice is cracked on stage. Put a finger down if you've gotten gifts from fans. And lastly, put a finger down if you've played multiple roles in a show.
Yes.
You did it.
I did it.
Fingers down. Okay, so I have to know, like, what has an interaction of you being like stopped on the street been like? Like, what has that been like?
It's it actually happens. It happens. It happens more often than you'd think, and it's usually like in New York, around theaters, and it is always really, really lovely. I love talking to people who dig my stuff. And usually people are coming up to me because they know who I am and they like my stuff. I have not yet had anyone come up to me and be like, I hate you, which is good. Um, I've like the so people coming up to me has always only been a positive experience for me. It's always weird when it happens somewhere that's like not New York,
Yeah.
which has happened a few times. And it's cool. It's always like it's really nice when it happens like around my parents or something because then it's like it's hard because I don't come from like a theater family. It's like hard for my parents to sometimes like fully grasp what success means in the theater, and so when someone like comes up to me, they're like, "You do Iconis?" And my mom and dad are there. It's easy for them to be like, "Oh, okay, that's cool. That person knows him, so he must be doing something right."
Yeah. So I mean, this year as a journalist, I was able to like dip my toe all the way into like the Tony Awards process and being there
Yeah.
for Tony's press day and then the night of the Tony.
Hmm.
I want to know, like, what was your favorite part about being Tony Award nominated? Because that I feel as a nominee can be a magical experience.
It's yeah. If I'm being totally honest with you, it was a strange experience for me because I was the only person from Be More Chill nominated for a Tony Award, and I just like I love theater because I love the community aspect of it, and I love things with people who I enjoy, and so it just felt really strange to be
Mm.
the only person out of a group of people who are so talented, and it's like, um, and obviously, like all the entire cast of Commercial, in addition to like being brilliant actors, are like some of my best friends in the whole world. And so it was just weird, to like go to all these events. And it actually, for me, it really felt like high school. Like it felt like going to like a high school dance or something without a date. Except just like going to all of these events only like by myself, and every other like show had multiple nominees, so it would be like all these other people like from their shows together like laughing and taking pictures, and it was literally just me alone by myself at these events. And so I remember like so many times I would just be like taking a selfie at a table and looking at like the cast of Hades Town all like taking pictures of each other. And I
Yeah.
truly felt like this is like high school for me. Like in my high school experience was like I was very quiet. I was like kind of socially awkward. And so it was like this is such a weird thing. And so it was cool, but I'm really excited to go back to the Tonys with the show that is like widely embraced, so I can be there with my friends.
Right.
Like awards are fun,
It's
but it's
all
yeah, exactly.
about. Yeah. And then like who's the most famous person to come to one of your shows? That's exciting, I feel.
Oh, who's the most famous person? Um, yeah, like off Broadway, Hal Prince came to Be More Chill, which
Well,
was like really insane. Yeah, that was very like it makes me tingly to even think of him sitting there. But the person that I think of the most is that on Be More Chill closing, closing was very emotional for a million reasons. And after the show was ended, I performed my song, the Goodbye Song, on stage at the Lyceum with like all of these people, some of whom were in, the whole cast of Me More Chill, but then like all of these people who perform with Iconis and family. And so it was like the most emotional experience. And then I walked off the stage and somebody was like, Joe, this is so weird, but Rick Moranis is here. Rick Moranis, like who played Seymour in the Little Shop of Horrors movie, among a million other things.
yeah.
And they were like, do you want to meet him? Because it was like there was like a million people and everyone was crying. I was like, yeah, sure. And so then Rick Moranis was just there, and he was like, hi, congratulations. I didn't know this was the closing of this show, but this show was really amazing. And it felt so like it was so weird and so cool, and it just felt like the most appropriate thing that like randomly on the final performance of Be More Chill, Rick Moranis, who was in like the thing that made me love musicals in the first place, he just showed up with his kids. So that was really sweet.
That's crazy. All right.
Yeah.
It's time for Guess the Musical. So like I
Oh
said,
yeah.
give you a show lyric. If you don't get the first time, I have a clue. First one is loathing.
Wicked.
Yes.
Come on.
The end is coming.
Oh no. The end is coming. Is that
Do you want a clue?
yeah, is it SpongeBob?
It's SpongeBob.
Yeah. Okay.
It's Fun
Cool.
Musical. Okay, Stupid with Love.
Stupid with love. Oh, I don't know. I need a clue for that one.
All right. On Wednesdays, we wear pink.
Mean Girls.
Mean Girls, somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Um, oh my God. It's like escaping me. Uh, 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 uh,
You know it. You know it.
I know. Yeah.
Do you want the hint?
Yeah, I need the hint. It's so embarrassing. Like on
Me,
the tip of my brain.
yeah, me and the sky.
Ugh, oh my gosh. I'm okay. It's Come From Away.
It's come away.
I'm literally at the theater, La Jolla, where Come From Away started, and behind me, literally right there, is Chris Ashley, who directed Come From Away.
Oh man.
I am so embarrassed. I really hope that he didn't hear. He's directing Hunter too. So like he didn't hear.
He cannot
No, don't tell him.
he cannot know about this for sure.
You can never tell. Chris Ashley, but I didn't know his show.
Gary, Indiana.
Music Man.
Yep. Cape Cow Hair Slipper.
Um, oh no. Wait, what did it say it again?
Cape Cow Hair Slipper.
Oh, Into the Woods.
Into the Woods. I
Yeah.
Feel You, Joanna.
Sweeney Todd.
Let It Go.
Frozen.
Frozen. Another 100 People.
Company. The Best.
Turn It Off.
Mormon. Book of Mormon.
Yep. Lastly, Arabian Nights.
Aladdin.
You got all of them.
Okay, good,
That
good.
was pretty good. Yeah.
It was dodgy for a second. That was so embarrassing.
I mean, so it's crazy. Like I've been doing this for a long time, and towards the beginning, we had this guy on, and one of the lyrics was a show that he was in, and he didn't get it, and that was funny.
It's just like it's so weird, but like hearing even lyrics that you know really well, hearing them like disconnected from the show or the music, it's like one of those things like, oh, how do I know? Where do I know this person somewhere, but I can't quite tell. It's very strange.
Now it's time for quick round. So
Yeah,
rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
yeah. Shoot.
Harry Potter house.
Oh, Slytherin.
Favorite holiday.
Christmas.
Favorite song.
Crying by Roy Orbison.
Favorite actor.
Robert De Niro.
Favorite musical.
Cabaret.
Favorite food.
Meat and cheese plate.
Favorite color.
Brown.
Favorite beverage.
Manhattan on the rocks.
Favorite place to eat in New York.
The West Bank Cafe on 42nd Street, in the basement of which is the Laurie Beeching Theater, where I did a lot of concerts and also got married.
Biggest pet peeve.
I hate when people are chatty and or on their phones during shows.
Favorite sitcom.
I will say Seinfeld.
Favorite animal.
House cat. Mine. Diane Kitten.
Favorite Broadway cast album.
My favorite Broadway cast album is, let's say, The Best Little Horror in Texas. Original cast recording.
Lastly, favorite ice cream flavor.
My favorite ice cream flavor is anything that has like peanut butter in it. Anything that's like salty.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Why did I get so hung up on sitcom? I was
I
like,
don't.
in that moment, I like literally couldn't think of one sitcom.
I mean, now I really love Modern Family, but like sometimes people will be like, "What's yours?" And I used to freeze up on it every single time.
It's really hard. I do want to know what your favorite show is, though.
Okay, so usually when I'm asked this question, I have to say that I have to give three or
Yeah.
three, and this is like no like this is in no order, but I love SpongeBob the musical,
Mm-hmm.
Wicked the musical, and
Mm-hmm.
Sweeney Todd and Company. So, oh my God, like Sondheim shows just make me go crazy. I love them so much. I saw the revival of Into the Woods 4 times, which is
Oh yeah.
but I love Sondheim musical so much.
Me too. Me too. I love all of them. Company is so good. Did you see yeah, of course you saw the revival of Company.
That revival, I mean, I think it's like one of the coolest musicals of our time right now. And I'm so
It
excited.
is. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But like, I can't like. Can you believe the Company was written in 1970? Like, that's the thing. Like, obviously, the revival like changing gender and everything. It's like, but just literal like things they were saying. It's unimaginable to me that show was written when it was written, and it feels so current. You don't have to do anything to it.
Exactly. And the fact that Bobby was played by a man for all those years, and then it's played by a woman, and like I feel like it connects more to women in so many ways. It was just crazy. And also just seeing Patti LuPone on stage, that
I
was
know.
one of the best parts about Company for me.
Yeah, she's so good. I love performers who have a lot of personality. You know, I love performers who like feel very charismatic and sort of like bring themselves to a role. That's it's like one of the reasons that I love Ben Platt so much, because I feel like it's like he totally like disappears into a role, but you're always kind of aware that it's him in a way that I actually think is very moving and like helps me understand the character even more. And I think like it's like Eddie LaPone, like Elaine Stritch, like people. It's like to me, it's a lot of people from like previous generations who have that like thing where like Bernadette Peters. You know, I just think it's so amazing.
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you so much, Joe. This interview was absolutely amazing. I'm so glad that we
Yeah, yeah.